You know, never in a million years would I have put Demon with a Foot Fetish on my bingo card for this year, but here we are. But really, that's the beauty of art, isn't it? That it brings you just deeply unexpected things. Talk to Me is the newest horror movie this year. It's directed by two guys, two brothers, Danny and Michael Filippo. Actually, it was pretty cool. I don't know if all theaters did this, but the Alamo that I went to had like a little intro kind of thing about some of the making of this movie and like where, you know, watching them get into Sundance and watching them get bought by A24. It was all really cool. It kind of connected me to these people, to these directors, and it made me kind of root for their movie. I want more movies to do that. Like I don't like the whole coming up and being like,
thanks for coming to the big screen. It's me, Tom Cruise.
like I don't like that totally because it's always awkward and there's always like two guys and one of them is saying something and the other one is just the whole time like, and then the other guy will finish and then he'll go, thank you for coming to the movie. Like it's just, there's that awkward moment. I don't like it. It just feels fake. But seeing this a little behind the scenes, a little bit of making of before we got the movie was really creative. This year's been great for horror movies. Megan, Scream 6, Knock at the Cabin, Renfield, Evil Dead Rise, all of which have been varying degrees of good to great. But somehow Talk to Me is my favorite this year. And in a year where there is another Evil Dead movie, to have a horror movie that goes above that for me is absurd. There's no way that should happen. Honestly, when I saw the trailer for this, I kind of thought it was going to be the next Ari Aster ripoff, you know, Hereditary Light kind of thing. It just looks like a classic, you know, at this point, kind of basic demonic horror. Even the setup for this movie, you know, kid loses her mom, she decides to go through some paranormal means to talk to her. All of that feels just kind of generic. But at every opportunity where this thing had the chance to cut some corners, you know, I mean, we all kind of understand the language of these types of movies. Every opportunity that it could have chosen to do that, to take the easy way through, it never did. It stayed completely fresh and kept me guessing the entire time. The thing that works so well about this is the tonal balance. It's that they start the movie with they start the movie with a terrifying segment, and then after that, there's like a long stretch of this where nothing scary happens. You really get into the characters, and that's a big swing. There's a ton of horror movies out there that try to do exactly what this did in terms of the setup of the characters and completely with it. Like you couldn't be less invested, and then by the time you get to the scares, it's just watching some people you don't care about get hurt. And at that point, it's not scary or fun. Talk to Me just does such a great job of investing you in these characters. It makes you care about them. It makes you feel feelings for them, so that when the shit hits the fan, you really are scared by it. Like, the scares only work in this movie because you care about the characters. And there are some standout scares in this movie. Like I said, it's not the scariest movie I've ever seen. Just because it's not some scare-a-minute gore fest, not that there's anything wrong with those. Do love those on occasion. This movie works on such a personal level that it doesn't have to be the scariest thing ever to be genuinely impactful to me. A few of those standout scare scenes that really work. The first time you ever see the hand being used by Mia, played by Sophie Wilde, it really is, it's just upsetting to see because you don't know. And the whole movie plays with this feeling of, I don't quite know what I'm looking at. Like, you can tell that they are communing with the dead, but are they? Like, is it demons? Is it really dead souls? Like, there's just such a question mark around that whole thing. And I like that throughout the movie, you kind of play with that question and you actually never totally know, but the movie gives you a little bit of evidence in both directions. And I think that works spectacularly. The use of the hand is something that should get old. Like, it should be a one-time gimmick that you go, oh, that was kind of creepy. And then, you know, they keep using it and you go, whatever, I get what they're going for here. But they keep pivoting the way that it's used. So like the first time you see it, it's just scary because talking to the dead is scary. Like, that's a freaky concept. And then the next few times that they use it, you know, you start to see some evil kind of come into play. And then there's this absolutely tremendous scene, which is just like a montage at the party of all of them kind of using it and having fun with it. And you can tell that it's, I mean, obviously it's like kind of an allegory for drugs, but it doesn't even have to be that. I like that this is just an addictive thing because it's a completely new experience and it makes people feel like weirdly alive. It's crazy to me that I get all of that just from a couple of scenes in a movie. Like, this is such a communicative film that I wasn't prepared for, honestly, when I walked in. Down that same path, I really do love that party scene. That's probably my favorite overall sequence in the movie because it really encompasses how the movie works. It starts with the boyfriend character talking to the hand, getting possessed, and then he says some real freaky shit and makes people really uncomfortable and does some really weird things, and you can tell that it like makes him uncomfortable, so you get that feeling that something's just not right here. You see that montage of all the kids kind of going through, doing it over and over and over and over, just enjoying themselves, getting a little freaked out. It starts to feel a little bit like a party drug. Then the scene takes this really freaky turn when Riley, the kind of younger brother character, uses the hand. You see him talking to Mia's mom, but you never see Mia's mom, which I think was an absolutely brilliant choice. It makes it way freakier. It keeps that question kind of in play. Then he stays in too long, gets possessed, starts slamming his head against anything he can find. Like, it's one of those scenes that kind of sticks with you after the movie. All through the day, I've been just thinking about that scene, which is crazy to me because it's like we've kind of seen that before, but something about the way that this movie kind of walks you through it instead of just throwing it in your face, that's terrifying to me. And I love the uniqueness of that feeling. I feel like most movies, especially horror movies, once it gets to the meat of what you kind of expect from the movie, you kind of know where it's going from that point on. Take a slasher movie. You build up, you have some characters, the killer starts killing people, and then it just ramps up and there's killing until the end. That's the movie. And you know that by about halfway through. Where this movie, I feel like halfway through, I had no clue where we were going. I was still trying to figure out what the hand did. And that's so much more engaging than just giving you some scary imagery. Honestly, the imagery that they gave you of the dead people, that's not what scares me about this movie. It's the question. Later on, you see just this flash of hell. Riley's in what we assume to be hell, where people are ripping him, maybe demons ripping him apart, maybe people, we don't know. There's that question again that kind of makes you feel just uneasy. That paired with the sound design of that scene, which is piercing and brilliant and terrifying. It all just leads to you not totally feeling safe this whole movie. And finally we get to the end. I feel like so many horror movies, the ending is the thing that just completely breaks it. I've seen so many movies that I'm fully on board and then the ending happens and I go, oh, that's kind of disappointing, or at best, okay, I guess that works. Not only is this ending completely satisfying, it pulls on threads that I didn't even see them laying throughout the beginning of the movie. The idea of Mia realizing that maybe she can't trust even her mom, and maybe she's not the car, but the kangaroo on the road that needs to be put out of its misery. There's just something so profoundly smart about that, and not a word is said about that at any time in that whole sequence. And I love an ending like that. I love something that really makes you think, something that makes you question if, in this case, are all of those demons, or are they just bad people, or people who have been down there long enough to just lose their mind? All the imagery and the sound and the very minimal dialogue that happens right at the end there, they do a great job of showing you exactly what's happening, not telling you, and then making you question everything you've seen up to that point. Honestly, my list of horror filmmakers that I will just watch anything they make purely because their name is attached to it is pretty short. And Danny and Michael Philippou just got added to that list. There's not a second wasted, the character work is interwoven with the scares and the thematic subtext, and it all comes out to an absolutely extraordinary piece of genre cinema. I highly recommend checking this out if you haven't seen it, and if you have and you're like me, maybe go see it again. Thank you for checking out this video and my channel. If you'd like to hear more of my thoughts on movies, shows, radio plays, if that's something you're into, just comment down below. What do you want me to review next? Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the little bell, hit whatever the 38th button is that YouTube's added this week, or don't. I'm not your dad.